Hello. So I'm just gonna confirm that we're quorum for this meeting, and that's 5. Perfect. And then I'm gonna go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. So the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we're all treaty people. Can I get everyone to just introduce themselves and say where they're from, communities they represent? Start. My name is Chama, and I'm representing Dartmouth.
Andrew Howe, representing East Preston.
Councilor Iona Stoddard, representing District 12.
Jerry Taylor from East Preston.
Missy Searle, live in Eastern Passage, but descendant of East Preston, Cherrybrook, and Creighton Street. Hammonds Plains. Shall I keep going? Thank you.
Mafumo Chidzonga, representing the African diaspora community.
Okay, perfect. So now, I think we miss Russell.
So I'm Russell Brooks, and I'm here on behalf of the ANZIO team, but I also am from the community of East Preston.
Thank you. Now I just want to invite NTO staff to recite their affirmation.
We acknowledge that African teaching, strength, and perseverance continue to challenge and inspire our communities. And if we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of our many ancestors.
So I'm just going to start with approval of minutes. Do we have any errors or omissions from the June 13th meeting? Okay. So there's none? Perfect. Then I will still need a second mover and a seconder, right, to move forward? Perfect. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, the mover.
I'll second.
Thank you, Map, the seconder. So all in favor say yay, and then all opposed say nay. Perfect. The motion has been carried. And then we are approval of order of business and approval of additions and deletions. So do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Oh, hello.
No additions or deletions have been received by the clerk's office.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And do any members have any additions or deletions? Perfect. Thank you.
I'm a bit late. Sorry,
Oh,
Jerry Taylor. I don't know if it's deletion or whatever. I had been talking about the removal of, I think it's about 10 committees that the HRM did. And I had a question about that at the last meeting. And I'm wondering, is that out of order to talk about? Or is there anyone here to talk about that now, or just let it go?
I'm not quite sure. I will refer to you. Are we okay to talk about it now, or do we move it to the next meeting to get better prepared?
I'm not too sure what you wanted to add exactly. What did you want to talk about? Sorry.
Yeah, well, one of the committees being removed was too good. The water. For the back? Okay. All right, I can try that. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. The water, there was a water committee set up to monitor the water being put into the communities by the HRM, and that committee was deleted, and there was no explanation. So I don't know if it's not the Wade Watershed Committee, but it was another watershed committee, and there was another couple, but unfortunately, I was rushing around. I don't have my notes, so I wanted to bring it up appropriately, and I can bring it at a later meeting. I wouldn't bother you today with it. It was just something to come up in the future. HRM should be able to explain why they're removing committees, because it was too many. It was almost 15 of them, I think. And I'm saying, okay, what is the reason? And I looked at the documents and there was no reason. And that's all I'm asking. What's the reason? Yeah, okay.
So thank you. I think that that's something that we can get the appropriate staff at a future meeting to come and provide an update. That's part of the governance review, that there is reports to come back and looking at certain boards and committees' terms of reference. They are looking at decommissioning the Regional Watershed Advisory Board. I believe that's the one that you're referring to. And there are other boards and committees that they're looking at their terms of reference and their mandate. So we can certainly have staff provide or come to a future meeting and provide information around that. But there aren't staff available tonight that can speak to that specific report.
And I'm just wondering, are there specific ones that you were looking at, and are there specific committees that you were looking at that would have relation to things happening in the community specifically that we can target for those staff to be at a future meeting? Because I mean, you had mentioned about your notes and that. Like, I'm just thinking, if you go through your notes and then submit those when we're doing agenda review, we can look at that and put those in and get in contact with the ones that we're looking at to Dorothy. The ones that the committees that you're looking at or have questions about, I would say to send the list of those to Dorothy so that we can look at which ones are, or not which ones, but which people and which staff would be the ones to bring in to ask your questions about them. Yeah.
Madam Chair, there is a governance report that outlines the committees that member Jerry Taylor was referring to. We can circulate that link to the committee if you so wish.
Okay. Thank you. That'd be lovely. So now can I have a mover and a seconder for the approval of order of business as presented and amended? Mover? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Councillor Ayo. And then seconder? Perfect. Thank you, Missy. All in favor say yay. All in opposed say nay. Motion carried. So we're now on 4, business arising out of the minutes. There's no business arising out of the minutes. Call for declaration of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with the agenda items? Okay, perfect. I don't think so. So now we can move on to the next one. Consideration of deferred business. I want to invite Andrew to provide members with the updates of the recommendations and motions that have been made to executive standing.
So good evening, everyone. Good to be back. And Appreciate you guys carrying on the work of the committee while I was away. So we were looking at, this was back in May. I was planning to update on where we were at with the different motions that we had put forward so far. So the first one was the African Nova Scotian representation in Halifax Regional Police. So the motion was passed at executive on November 27th, 2023, and the report request was forwarded to HRP, and so we're awaiting that report from Halifax Regional Police. And then our second one was the understanding the history of Africville, and that motion was passed on March 11th, 2024. And so the ANZO staff are currently working on the report, and the target return to Executive Standing Committee is going to be for September. And then our third one was the community benefit agreements in African Nova Scotian communities, and so that came from the conversation we had with who was that? Carolyn Wright was here, and some of her team, and so she gave us a presentation on some of the work that they're doing over in Beachville and now throughout the communities. And so that one was passed with an amendment to go to Regional Council at the Executive Standing Committee on April 22nd, 2024. And I'll ask Councillor Lindell if he has any other information he wants to provide on that one there. Yeah.
Thanks. So that got to council, and what happened kind of in the final hour was we got a letter from the minister, and I can't think of what minister it was at the time, outlining that they are doing work and want to continue to work with HRM on that. So it was felt that we didn't need to put the motion forward at council because we got the response, because the committee kind of made the government stick their head up, and they said, okay, we need to get a response. So they sent us a letter just saying we're looking at it and we're happy to continue to work with HRM. So at this point, we're waiting from the staff, HRM staff, to tell us what came out of those discussions. So because of this conversation, I'll follow up with them and see if we can get like a memo to the committee.
And so that's where we're at with the current motions that we've put forward thus far. And so while we're waiting for the work that the ANZO staff are putting together for the Africville information, I'm wondering if what's our avenue in terms of, reminding HRP that we put that in there and we want to hear something from them sooner rather than later. That's my question to I guess to Dorothy or Krista. So the question is, with our initial motion, the request for information on African Nova Scotian representation in the Halifax Regional Police, in them receiving the report request, my question is, that was November of last year. So can we get an update? How can we get an update from them on what, if anything, has been done with that so far?
So that's something that we can take away and follow up with HRP and find out where they are with it in the process. Unfortunately, we're not able to track. We have to follow up directly with HRP. We're not able to see and track their reports and where they are in their process. So that's something we'd have to take away and get that information.
Yeah, so that if the rest of the committee's in agreement, I'd ask that we go ahead and do that so that we can get some information on where they are with that so far. And that's all I've got for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. So now we're gonna go to correspondence, petition, and delegations. Has there been any correspondence received by the clerk's office, Dorothy?
No correspondence or petitions have been received by the clerk's office.
Perfect. Do members have any petitions or correspondence? No? Perfect. Thank you. We're gonna move on to the next agenda item, presentations. Okay. So we don't have any presentations right now, but do we have anything scheduled in the upcoming meetings? I don't believe so. Okay, perfect. And then we're gonna move to 8, information items brought forward. None. There are no information items brought forward for this meeting. 9. So I would like to invite Liam McSween to provide a presentation to the committee. Is that you? Okay, perfect.
Hello. Thank you very much, Chair, members of the African Descent Advisory Committee. Pleasure to be here tonight. It's my first time in front of this group, so great to see you all. My name is Liam McSween. I'm the Elections and Special Projects Manager with the Halifax Regional Municipality. And I'm here just today to speak about the upcoming municipal election. So it's coming up fast and furious, just so you know. October the 19th is the date. And I'll begin by showing a few slides. So that's my first slide. The next municipal election will take place on October the 19th, 2024. In the Halifax Regional Municipality, we do what's called a hybrid election. We have been doing that since 2008, which means we provide alternative voting. And what I mean by alternative voting is internet and telephone voting, and we also provide paper-based voting as well, too. The big thing with this election this time around, Council has given us direction to go fully alternative for our advanced polling dates, which happen on October the 12th and the 15th. And you'll see a little bit more information about that as we move through the election. But we will have a paper election option happening on Election Day, October the 19th. That'll be your only opportunity to vote in paper in this election. Part of that decision was wrapped up in our last election, which took place in 2020. Where we had 76.9% of the voting population, so the people that turned up to vote, there was roughly 40%, voted alternatively, so either through internet or telephone voting. So it's a very popular method. HRM has kind of pioneered it for municipal elections, starting again 16 years ago. So Council, we requested that Council give us a little bit of direction to look at studying that. And looking at what potentially down the road could be a fully electronic election alternative election for HRM. So again, as it goes along and things get more and more ingrained with folks and the way that they like to do things, then we have that. But there will be a paper election on October the 19th. One thing I did want to draw your attention to, and certainly to this group, and I know there's definitely been some people that have been involved in this along the way, is we have new polling boundaries for 2024. The municipalities in Nova Scotia are mandated through the Municipal Government Act and through the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board to do a polling boundary review every 8 years. So our last major one took place in 2012. And for some of the folks who've been around as long as I have, there's definitely some younger folks in here, but for ones that have been around, you probably remember in 2012 when we went from 23 districts down to 16. So we conducted a 2-phase study, which is the recommended approach, which took place in 2022, and which include 2 phases looking at the governance for the municipality, determining the number of councillors, which Council had determined to remain at 16, and then looking at the second phase, which is actually the adjustments to those polling boundaries. Couple of things that come into consideration. There's 5 criteria in the MGA. And so communities of interest being one of the most difficult ones to define. So keeping like communities together that have shared cultural backgrounds and recreational backgrounds and that type of thing. Population, like voter population and population in general, and a few others as well too that had to be considered within that process. So we brought on a committee of community members that helped steer that. Known as the District Boundary Resident Review Panel. And they really led the public engagement activities for phase 2, which involved many community consultations across the municipality. We had 9 in person. We had a couple of virtual ones as well too, and we tried to hit as many communities as we possibly could. So within that process, we had there's our process, the study process, and then of course there was the taking it to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, which was a public consultation process as well. Had our hearing in September. It did get delayed because of the wildfires. So we held a hearing at the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, where community members could then again come out and speak to the changes, which we had some, and then we've got a final decision in December of 2023, and the board issued their final order on January 12th, 2024. One of the big things to remember about these polling boundaries is they don't come into effect until after the election. It's kind of a communication exercise on our part because technically the old boundaries are still in place. So your counselors that are serving right now are the counselors for those boundaries, but people will be voting for the new boundaries. And that some of them have changed significantly, particularly some of our ones in our African Nova Scotian communities. So if we think about what is now District 4, Preston, Cherrybrook, Westfall, and likewise with District 14, Lucasville, Upper Hammonds Plains. One of the big, and I think one of the most significant things about these boundary changes is we have a lot of our African Nova Scotian communities grouped together, which was different than in the past. They tended to be split up. So that was a really good push, and we had a lot of great community feedback from some of the consultation that we did there. So we can certainly talk about that a little bit later, but did want to highlight that those boundaries have changed, and that we now have district names as well too. So on August 6th, Council attributed some names as there to those districts. So they're now in place and available on our website. Voting methods, touched on this a little bit earlier, but we have online so we use online alternative voting. And that takes place from October 8th to the 16th. So this is really an advanced voting period. So alternative voting is run 24/7 between it starts at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning on October the 8th, and it runs to 7 o'clock p.m. on October the 16th. So people are able to access their voting from home, from a mobile tablet. They can do it over the phone. PC works on all the browsers, all that kind of stuff. We have 2 advance polling days that happen on the 12th and the 15th of October. So that is the Saturday of the Thanksgiving long weekend, and then another one on the following Tuesday. And we have 25 advanced polling locations across the municipality where people can come in and vote online, and we'll have those fully staffed up. One of the differences is people are voting on a tablet this time around as opposed to on paper. But we have staff there to be able to help facilitate that process. So for people who may not be completely comfortable, people who don't have access to reliable internet, people who just want to come out and see because it's their first time voting and they want to do it in advance, they can do it at these centers and they can be assisted by people there as well. So that will help facilitate that flow of voting. By phone, again, this is something that we've been providing since 2008. Another option, one of the things when we think about HRM, we do have internet dead zones. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems to be getting worse. For some reason, I don't understand, but it just gets worse than it has been even in the past. So people who have landline telephones maybe aren't completely comfortable voting online, have the option to be able to vote over the phone. And it's services provided in English and French. It's very accessible, and it takes roughly the exact same amount of time as it does to vote in person. or online rather. And then in person, like I alluded to earlier, that happens on the 19th. That is the only voting option on election day. So under the Municipal Elections Act, October the 19th happens